but to many throughout the city, he was just Ernie. We were his kind of town, and he was our kind of teammate. A humble hero, an eternal optimist. When he retired his Cubs jersey, he never took off the jersey of Team Chicago. And a whole new generation of Chicago kids who never saw him play came to know him as a mentor who taught them how to play the game of life. Ernie did not just...
It's filming.
I'm just a Cub fan, White Sox fan, Brewer fan. I don't care what hat you wear. You gotta be a Ernie Banks fan.
Yeah.
So, I think we should have a moment of silence for Ernie Banks. Okay, thank you.
Let's drink too.
Let's have two meetings. Let's get two. We got two speakers, right? That's one thing we got. So, but we got a lot of presentations. And anybody see Ernie Banks play when he just came up? We got to always have a whole group with a saber group. Why don't you come up and share it? Come on.
Who remembers him as a shortstop?
Yeah, that's, share your memories. I mean, what the saber's about.
Well, my first Cubs game at Wrigley was in July 1955. So Ernie was the shortstop. Gene Baker was the second baseman. They had just began to integrate the ball club. I think the White Sox had beaten them to it. Can't remember who, but yeah, the first real games that I remember was Memorial Day, 1956. Great doubleheader. Ernie did get a chance to play too. Braves came down. First game. Russ Meyer was pitching, and top of the first, he had in trouble. Gave up 3 straight home runs. Then I think he hit Billy Bruton, and there was one quail, a good fight on that one. Somehow I think the Cubs won that game but lost the second game, which against the Braves, 500 was great. But I was there for many, many games, many doubleheaders. First, my parents would take me to the game, take me the train in Chicago and the subway up north. Later on, when I got to drive, I would drive, and that's back in the days when you find places to park there. You didn't have to mortgage a house. And I remember especially the '69 season for a couple of reasons. One, I was in school in Drake University in Des Moines, and the Iowa Oaks had just come to life as the American Association had been resurrected. So I'd go out to their games during the night, during the week, come touring town, drive in to see the Cubbies on the weekends. And by that time, of course, Ernie was at first base, and I can relate to seeing him for not 53 or 54, but for the rest of the years he was playing for maybe a year too long. Obviously he needed 7 so he could get the 500 home run, and it was ironic, although Mays nearly passed him by then, but he stopped with home runs. It was at 512, and that beat the record that existed in the National League when he came up, and it was 511 by Mellon. So I was able to at least move up a little bit on that home run listing.
And all steroid free.
So that was my thoughts, at least.
I wanted to say a word. I'm Rich Hansen from the Chicago chapter. Those of you who know me know I grew up a White Sox fan. I'm quite proud I brought my World Series cap here today. But you couldn't help but have a lot of respect for Ernie. One of you were a Cubs fan, and I think at the Sox Fest last weekend where this news broke, was widely regarded. I certainly remember, being growing up there, come home from school, I come home from lunch, watch Bozo, come home after school, grab the Cubs. That's how I grew up.
He Bozos? Bozos are regular.
So, yes, obviously I grew up with Jack Brickhouse, obviously a voice, and I remember in '70, it was just one of those days coming home, turning it on, seeing him hit his 500th home run, so hearing that he replayed all week long certainly, brings back a memory of hearing that, and I never saw him as a shortstop. Class act, in fact, he stayed in Chicago his whole life after that, and was always a spokesman, and could meet any audience, and sign any autograph. Speaks volumes. So, anyway, welcome to all of you. Richard, do you know, is Lorena coming?
I'm not, I thought she was, so I've been holding off. If she doesn't come, I'll talk later about
Right.
the convention.
Obviously, there's a little convention coming up in a few months at the Palmer House in Chicago, and Lorena Kennard is leading the effort, and working closely with Richard and myself and several other people. So we'll give you an update. The registration is open, and so take advantage.
Thank you. I introduce David from Chicago chapter. He's going to introduce our guest speakers. So happy to have you today.
Hey y'all, Dave Miller, Chicago chapter. First speaker is Ozzie Guillen Jr., the obvious son of Ozzie Guillen.
Well, good morning, guys. So it's really cool seeing some Cubs fans and White Sox fans in here together, Milwaukee fans, and some Cardinals fans, and they're not beating up each other. That's pretty cool. I'm excited to be here. Last week, I was actually at a convention for financial advising, and that's what I do now in my new life. And it was so boring. I was talking to a bunch of guys about baseball. That's my passion and my family. So I'm glad that I'm here. So again, I'm Ozzie Guillen Jr., oldest son of Ozzie Guillen, manager, World Series manager of the Chicago White Sox, obviously. But I've been around baseball my whole life. Grew up, was born in Las Vegas during my father's tenure in AAA, and then grew up inside a clubhouse. So I've seen a lot of interesting things, a lot of good players. Baseball's in my family. It's a passionate thing. A couple of my aunts are married to baseball players. In my career, I started off working in the clubhouse for a pretty good team, Atlanta Braves in the 90s. And then the Marlins in the 2003 team. That was my last year as a club attendant. Then I came over to Chicago, interned for the White Sox, team translator for the 2005 World Series, 2006 team, and then that's when my broadcasting career started. I was in the booth for 8 seasons, was fired afterwards, let go, not renewed your contract, whatever you want to say, after Ozzie Guillen's father, went down to Miami. Then I worked a little bit with the Marlins, attended scout school, wanted to start my passion in baseball operations. And as you might well know, he was fired from there also, therefore I followed afterwards. So during that time is when I changed my career in baseball and got into financing. I still own a marketing company called Triple Crown Agency, so I can still a little bit of the game, but the game is changing. The game is changing in the sense that, I was talking to Mauricio right now, one of the things I wanted to bring up, I don't know if Ernie Banks would have played in the sabermetrics era, because it would have not looked how Ernie played, but how many walks and strikeouts Ernie would have gotten. And I came into a time in baseball in the 90s that with computer technology, I thought that baseball was too backwards. You know, I thought that they didn't look enough at math, and you know, how can they not look at analytics? And then the analytical came in. But now I think it's taken too much over the game of baseball. In that sense, you know, some people here are going to say, you know, you're going to say this because your father's no longer managing. But in baseball, we like what I like to consider Ozzie as an old school guy, somebody that people think that he's ancient because he doesn't look at the numbers. But during his managerial tenure, he did look at the numbers, or what numbers were important. There's teams out there that are being built straight on analytics, and I don't think that's right. I think that somebody who's been scouting baseball for over 30, 40 years brings a knowledge to the table that is impossible to take away from. So I think the game of baseball right now in transitioning, one of the things that's dangerous for those old school guys is that it's going too much to the numbers. For example, you know, you got guys running front offices, second and third in command. They have no baseball knowledge, but have an analytical degree from Harvard or Brown University. I think all the numbers can be crunched. That's why I think that I'm scared of seeing the game of baseball change. Seeing, you know, if a guy is good because he runs hard to first base, or how well does he play after the seventh inning. That's the baseball that I love, and I think the baseball that I'm scared that's going to be lost. I think the other issue in baseball, which players will probably kill me for bringing this up, I think contracts are getting completely out of hand. I think there's guys that earn it, there's a lot of guys that get paid a lot because they just have to make the minimum. And I think that obviously teams are making money with all the TV deals, but I'm scared to see how long this is going to last. And obviously everyone in this room is older than I am. You guys have seen a lot of strikes. But I think with the timing, I think the future, there might be another one. I don't think the union for the baseball teams is as strong as it used to be. I can see the owners trying to use that against the team. But looking at some of these contracts and some of these spendings on some teams, it's really ridiculous. And that goes back to affecting the number one person in the game, which is the fan. I think that growing up, and now that I'm not in baseball, and sometimes I have to buy tickets, you know, I see the cost. I see the cost of how much it takes a family to go to a baseball game. And, you know, my brother, Osnick Ian, is playing independent ball for the Normal Home Builders. And I'm sitting there with my father, Osnick Ian, and he said, you know, for the crap that the White Sox and the Cubs are putting, this was last year, are putting on, I'd rather drive up here to Normal or Schaumburg and watch these guys who are playing independent ball that are playing with more passion and pay $5, $6 a ticket because at the end of the game, what I want to watch is baseball. So I think the game, the teams, you know, they're doing a lot, bringing the fan in, but I think that's the number one thing and the most important thing to keep baseball alive is the fan. And I think getting into that point, I think there's been a huge disconnect between players and fans in the last 10 to 15 years due to social media, due to websites like drunkathletes.com, due to Instagram and a lot of issues going on. And I've seen that disconnect, especially from people like my father, who at first were very, very close with the fans and would take a picture anywhere and would not care what, you know, the fan would say or what would come out afterwards, to now being scared of, you know, where am I going to take this picture? What is this fan going to post up of this picture? And that's been a huge loss because I remember growing up, you know, I grew up in Berwyn. It wasn't a big deal with fans and players. You know, the people that were my parents' neighbors, they were fans. You know, the kids that I went to school with, they were fans, and it wasn't that big of a deal of the athlete and the fan. Now I think there's a huge disconnect of that, and that hurts the game. Because at the end of the game, the fan's a person that comes in and pays that ticket. Two good things that I wanted to bring up. Both teams are going to be pretty good. Cubs and White Sox. I'm quite interested in seeing where that's going to turn out. But now I'm just going to give it up to you guys. I'm sure you guys have questions. I'll answer anything. I'm not going to back down on anything. I'm not scared of answering. So you guys seem like very knowledgeable baseball guys. I'm not a White Sox fan. I'm not a Cubs fan. I'm a baseball fan. When you've been fired from 3 different teams and you're only 30 years old, you start thinking about you know, that you love the game of baseball more than you're not just a fan of one team.
We always like inside stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So being a clubby for those few years, can you give us your favorite player as a clubhouse, working in the clubhouse, and probably the one that you would say is your least favorite?
You know what? My favorite player would be the guy who was the best tipper. I worked for a really good team in the Florida Marlins. They weren't very good on the field in 2002, but they were hell of tippers. You had guys like Preston Wilson and Cliff Floyd and Castillo, the second baseman. They were pretty good tippers. You get their cars, go get it washed. They were very generous. So bad team, but we're very generous tippers. I think the most fun I had, I think maybe because of my age group, and probably one of the best things I've ever seen assembled. And I learned a lot in baseball, and not only in baseball, but in my managing skills now, because I try to think what I do in my past, of what I've learned from great managers, because managers are leaders, they just put a uniform on. So what I do now in life, I manage agents, financial advisors, I work for New York Life, and I try to bring those skills, because I have a bunch of guys on my team that have family issues, and I'm trying to make them as best as they can be. Working for Bobby Cox was really cool. And the 1998 Marlins and 99 Atlanta Braves, due to the fact that even the way that his clubhouse was constructed, most clubhouses are constructed in a like a room like this. Atlanta Braves, I don't know if they changed it, but during the late 90s it was a circle. So everyone would have to look at everyone's eyes in the clubhouse. So if Bobby would talk, you would be in the middle of the clubhouse. So you couldn't hide as a player in the dimensions. So everyone was kind of an equal. So you couldn't have like a corner, usually the veteran guy has a corner, locker room, and he's there. And during the meeting, he can just, kind of fizz away from like the team circle. And I thought it was really cool that it was a circular, and every player was, equal in the lockers. And again, that comes when you have so many great guys, a couple Hall of Famers, and one of the worst players is Ozzie Guillen, who's got 14 years plus in the big leagues. That's a pretty good team. So learning from that aspect was really cool. And I think that also on that end, working for those guys was fun. A lot of funny jokes. I think guys, I never had one guy that I didn't like working for. I think that there's guys that kind of keep to themselves. You see attitudes. There's a couple players I think that talk a big game, but don't back it up. And I think that's the one thing that bothered me the most. Guys that would come in, and when they were playing awesome, they were the best guys ever, and they were on top of their game. And when they were losing and they were not playing, they were miserable, and they hated everyone, and they would root against their teammates and not be good. A couple of those players, one of them not to mention, but they were part of the White Sox, no longer part of that team. But yeah, I don't like that. I don't like when you say I'm a real tough guy and then you're not really tough. So I like guys like Paul Konerko, like not a big speaker, but you know what he's going to bring to the table every day. It's not a lot. It's not very fast. Okay defensively, pretty good hitter, but you're going to get the same thing.
Well, let me follow up on that. Is that the job of a manager to try to, say, balance those guys out? Or how do they become that way after, I'll say, all the years in baseball?
Their parents. How did they become that way?
Yeah.
They got that way before they were in the big leagues. One of the biggest struggles I think in baseball as a player, I like to see, there's something now in the United States that everyone specializes in a sport. And I was just watching an article on Ohio State's football team, how many recruits he had brought in, Urban Meyer, that played multiple sports. And the reason that he did that was, where has this person failed before? Baseball, the thing is, these guys are specializing in one sport. They've always succeeded. They've been the best in their little league team. They've been their best player in their high school team. They've been their best players in college. Everyone's telling them that they're so good that they're getting awards, left and right. And then they get to the professional baseball, they're not really that good. They get humbled. So a lot of guys can't deal with that. I think that's also a society thing. You guys are a little bit older than me, but I don't believe in giving second places ribbons. There's winners and there's losers. That's just how life is. So telling kids all the time, you're a winner, you're special. You can tell someone you love them and that you're a good parent, but you're like, hey, you lost. Like, I still love you, but you lost. And I think that's huge. No, it is. I go to South America and Venezuela, and I see kids that are already playing Little League Baseball, and they know who's good and who's bad. And they're playing and their parents love them, but they know, like, one kid gets a trophy. They make the group, they make everyone else watch them, the one team that won. You come here in the United States, they get first place trophy, second place, last place trophy. That's the thing though. So you get to see characters. I think that when you evaluate a player, I'm going to inside with the White Sox. One of the biggest reasons that Ozzie had issues with the front office, not because that he didn't like the player, not personally, maybe sometimes not numbers wise, is that sometimes you don't believe that player can mesh with your family. Is he going to buy into the chemistry of this team? Is this person won in the past? What is his track record? So again, yeah, I mean, it's a manager's job to try to do it, and they try, and they talk to them. I think managers are most of the time psychologists as well as managers, because at that level you're not really telling a guy how to catch a ground ball. But a lot of guys are just mental cases, and that's why you see those guys. You can look at the rosters that jump from one team to another team to another team, another team. There's one thing that I always said in scouting: when teams like Minnesota Twins, Atlanta Braves, let you go, there's a reason why they let that player go. Or whether the top prospect, and you got an outfield that's old, for example, a couple years ago, the Detroit Tigers, and you give away one of your top outfield prospects, why are they giving up that guy? There's always a doubt. The player can be great numbers-wise, but someone saw something in their organization, and those are the two organizations that I trust the most in evaluating. Atlanta Braves and Minnesota are my favorites. St. Louis Cardinals third. Someone saw something there that they might not think that person will be able to cut it in the big leagues. And most of the time, it's the mental aspect. That's what I think makes a big league player different from a minor league player. Is coming to the big leagues. It's a grind mentally.
Ozzie, welcome. I love your dad. I hope he gets back to that somewhere. I mean, I want him to come here, but that's another story. As a Braves fan, Brewers and Braves fan, what you just said, I think the Braves a couple of years ago, I think cut Vinny Castile, but they had no one to replace him. And that to me is a sign of a good organization. You should do that and bring someone up. But I have to ask you, as a John Smoltz fan, and with the jersey on today, how are Smoltz, Glavine, how are those guys doing?
If I had a game 7, I'd pick John Smoltz to pitch it. I think Greg Maddux is probably one of the funniest human beings on the face of the earth. I mean, he's got a weird type of humor. And Gliden's just a workhorse. I think one thing that I saw that, and I think the White Sox brought it to 2005 with the group that they put together.
The pitching staff, yes.
Not only the pitching staff and how good they were. It was the first time I've ever seen, obviously, I was younger then, and I saw that being tried to be implemented by Don Cooper and my father. Greg Maddux and those guys, they would watch each other's games. They had a philosophy. So when there's scouting reports, everyone says, okay, to Big Papi, we're going to pitch. Big Papi can't hit an inside fastball. So every pitcher on the team tries to go inside fastball. Not everyone's best pitch is an inside fastball. So what the Braves would do is, they would say, why would you get a person out with what the scouting report says? Your best pitch is a curveball. Attack your strengths. So they would kind of, other than Leo being there, they would help each other out. And then they grabbed Bill Wood and those guys and made them great pitchers because they would be there and they would make sure that the younger guys knew how to attack their strengths, knew how to be a better pitcher. So they had to coach themselves. And I saw it happening again in 2005 with the White Sox between Freddie Garcia, Burley, Garland, getting those guys to the next level of even helping guys like Jose Contreras. Because they didn't work out in New York, comes here, it was confidence.
That system and that the Braves had, I tell my White Sox fans during that World Series run, that staff in my opinion, like Leo always said, go to the post, go how many 8-9 games that the White Sox had that year. So it's close.
And it's all how you deal with your teammates. Like if you watch games and watch who the top guys are when a guy comes off the field, who's shaking their hands. If you're a good teammate, if you're there as a player and you're competing, and you're there watching because that's the best. I think in a baseball game, that's the best thing as a pitcher that you can do is watch the game before. I can care less if you're watching a video from what a guy did a week ago. A week ago, that's another story. What have they done the game before? So if you're pitching the next 2 games in that series, you should watch every pitch of every at bat, and that's how you will get better, in my opinion.
Thank you. What's your opinion on pitch counts and all that?
Pitch counts, I think it's a minor league problem. I think that in the minor leagues, when they let you go, you're in a pitch count in the minor leagues, and you come to the big leagues, I think the game gets extended. 7 innings in the minor leagues, it's 4 in the big leagues. American League Baseball, 3 innings is 1 inning in the National League. I think National League is easier. Pitching wise, you got 7, 8, 9. You don't have to grind. That's what I love to see Zamarja this year. And I got a bet, and the Sharks, my friend, I bet the Lester's going to win more games. So I think he's going to eat that league up. But in the American League, you have to battle more pitch on pitch. And God forbid if you have a horrible umpire. So the pitch count is going to be higher in the big leagues. So when you're in the minor leagues and you've got guys throwing 80 pitches in AA, that's hurting them. I think increase their pitch count, give them more days to rest. Nolan Ryan tried doing it with the Rangers, and it was working out. But then the sabermetrics numbers, people said, if you throw 140 pitches, your arm falls off. Well, no one's going to tell you when your arm's going to fall off. Your arm's going to fall off with 40 pitches or with 150 pitches. It just depends.
What they do is they say, you know, if you do that multiple times.
Exactly. So I think that it's the way that you get ready. I think it's your legs under you. I think it's how deep you can go into a game. I think that the reason that guys like Nolan, Roger Clemens, 200 plus inning guys, they get themselves prepared for that in spring training.
Well, my son played Little League here in Wisconsin. They had pitch limits.
That's different. You said
Right.
You said the big leagues. I think when you're young, if the day I have a kid, my kid, he ain't pitching. If he is, he's gonna be on a pitch count, and you're not pitching till maybe college, like high school, college, and then you're gonna watch. You have so many bullets in your arm.
Yeah.
Once you become a pro, then that's the team's paying you. You can start moving around and seeing like how you can get to the next level. But as a young kid,
Look at Kerry Wood. He was
Kerry
pitched
Wood.
to death.
you know what? No one remembers this, but remember a guy Ari Dickey?
Yeah.
No one remembers him when he was good in college. No one remembers him how good he was at Tennessee. No one remembers that he was throwing 200 innings at Tennessee like on a consistent basis in college. You know, he won the College World Series one year pitching 16, 15 innings, I think. So that takes a toll. You know, eventually, obviously, you have the arm problem, but what you do in high school and college, that can affect you down your road in your career. Not only pitchers, I think some kids playing like 9 months of baseball,
Big time.
I think that's not good mentally. And you just get tired of the game. Baseball's the only sport that they tell you how bad you are every at bat. You get a hit, okay, you had a great game. And I think every kid in high school, your goal should be to play in college. I think that you should get a free education that way, and then after college, you can worry about being a pro. Because it's so many things have to happen for you to get into pro ball. One of them being luck. And then once you're in pro ball, then they bring in the real players from South America. Neanderthals. So now you're competing more.
I'd like to talk then about the Dominican League, and what do you think about that, and they're developing young players, so that sounds like you'd be sort of negative about that?
I want a world draft. So American kids can have an advantage, and everyone can be equal like the NBA. Right now, Vladimir Guerrero's kid, I just saw, you guys can YouTube him, the freak, 16 years old. There's like a video that they throw 60 pitches, he hits 40 out. That guy's gonna get like $6 million probably on July 2nd. So now with the technology, these Hispanic kids know that how much their worth is. So with that, so much money being involved, so much stuff goes down there. I think there's 2 things that I'm against with Latin American baseball. Number 1, these kids don't know what steroids are. I can guarantee you that. Someone just comes up to them and says, hey, do you want to be a millionaire? Put this in you. Then once they get caught, you know, they have to say, I didn't know what it was, because that's the truth. You know, the difference between Hispanic guys doing steroids and American guys was that Hispanic guys was buying drugs from the dealer on the corner. American guys was having it delivered, you know, by a high-end drug dealer. That was just an era in baseball. It is what it is. But nowadays, that's one of the big mistakes, was that like kids weren't educated. Number 2, Hispanic kids come to the United States and get signed at 16 years old. Then they get released at 18. No other teams pick them up. I think getting signed at 16 is way too young. You get burned out. You're coming to a new country, no parents, no family. You're not going to make it. That's like grabbing a sophomore in high school and putting them to play professional baseball. And then if they don't make it, you cut them. So I think the signing age at 16 is way too young. I think you wait till they're 18, or you let any team sign anyone. So I think the other part is, since Major League Baseball's not down there, there's not a draft. These kids, it's human trafficking, literally. You know, you go down there, you find someone, and then you sell them to whoever you want. So there's a lot of stuff that happens on there, discrepancies that, you know, Major League Baseball does its best to try to make it better. But when there's a lot of money, there's a lot of issues that you have to look into. So I think a world draft would eliminate a lot of that. But then again, Hispanic players will tell you, so that we can't get signed for $1,000 as a free agent.
But then all the teams in Dominican have little training camps.
They have their academies, and players have, and other people have academies too. Like you can go down there
That's the
and open
problem.
your own academy. I think that's the issue, because they didn't put a rule on there, so some ex-baseball players, they create their own academy, they create their own agencies. I can go down to the Dominican Republic with $500,000 and start my own academy. And then I'm the agent and I can control, anybody here can do it. And I think that's gonna be an issue when Cuba opens up. That's gonna be, everyone's gonna go down there and open an academy. So I think there's gotta be more regulations. With the draft, you kind of stop that. You can have as many academies as you want, but everyone's gonna have to get drafted.
You touched a little bit on youth baseball. What's your opinion of the select youth baseball where kids are playing at 9, 10, 11 years old, they're playing 70 games?
Again, I think that when you're a kid, you should be able to play every sport. You should be a triathlete. I think there's a lot of money in youth baseball. Again, money. I think that traveling teams, specializations, coaches, the competition, you think you're gonna get there. I think that money drives that. I think that's crazy. Like I hope my kid doesn't think that I'm gonna be driving again for 4 months out of the summer everywhere. I'm not. You're gonna be playing regular baseball, and then once you get to a level of high school, you know, when your skills need to get better, then we're gonna focus on that. But at 9, 10 years old, that's too much.
Well, a lot of kids aren't even playing high school baseball, they're bypassing that.
To go straight to junior college. It depends. I think you lose a lot of things that are gonna make you better in the big league level and professional. Those things that how to fail, you know, your team camaraderie. There's one thing when you're scouting is what's his baseball poise, like what's his baseball aptitude. You got to see that in a kid. Like if Ozzie Guillen was in today's baseball world, he probably wouldn't have gotten drafted by anybody because he was little. You know, he was crazy, like legitimately. He was like running around and stuff. He can play the game though. So every scout thinks they're like genius, like, oh, I found Avon. I can grab a 4-year-old from the bar and say, hey, from inside, say, hey, what do you think about this person? They say, wow, that guy's pretty good. I like the guys that drafted like David Ecksteins, like Joy Cora, guys that are like Mark Burley, like whoever got Burley that guy's a genius. Those are the guys that are like the diamonds in the rough that, due to like the baseball formality, they wouldn't have made it. So I think youth baseball, I think that parents take it way too serious at way too young of an age. So that's way too many games for a kid to be playing.
Do you think just playing one sport that leads to injuries as well?
I think so much injuries just gets you boring. It bores you. When you're the best at something, like when I played, I was out of your 3 sports, you're usually really good at one. So the people that go focus on a sport, that's the sport they're going to dominate. So you're going to grow up your whole. I want to give an example, but I don't want to say the player's name. That was very good. Little league, college, came to play a team in Chicago, and he came in and they made him, you know, the best player on earth, and he wasn't that good. And when he was faced with adversity, he was horrible. And now he's the backup player.
North side or south side?
Southside. But that happens though, like adversity. I think that happens a lot more for the I like guys that play multi. But then again, I don't like when guys get drafted and they say he was a hell of a tight end. And it's like, okay, well, how good was he at baseball? Which happens a lot on the south side. It's top ceiling guys.
Do you feel that college players have more focus and are much easier to coach? And did you go to college?
No. I went to college. I played college baseball. Well, I took some people's money in college baseball. I think that I thought I was going to be way better. I had other types of fun in college. Baseball wasn't a focus. But so there's a guy, and this is a joke. He might see the YouTube video and think this is funny. Maybe he might not. So Micah Johnson, the second baseman. He was talking, the White Sox Fest, they had him on the stand, and I was there, and I think he's a pretty good player, actually a fan of his. And they asked him a question that, oh, it's so great that he's going to go get his degree. And they asked him, why do you want to get a degree? He said, I want to be a general manager in the future. I turned and I said, that's not a good sign. He's thinking about what he wants to do in the future, when he gets his college degree. I like players that are like Juan Uribe. Can't read, can't write, can't know anything. He has no baseball. I believe in college.
How many rings,
kind of right out of high school, I would have been lying to myself because I knew that I wasn't going to make it to the big leagues right away. So I think that a choice to go into college is great because my goal in life, and I think everybody's goal in life, should be to believe how good you're going to be. I think you should ask around and really know what your worth is, not just from like the people around you. It's a very hard jump. For example, my little brother Austin, he signed out of high school, top high school in Chicago, in Florida, signed by the White Sox, didn't go in the round that he wanted to go in, decided to go play college. I think college affected him instead of going to pro ball, because he's not really a student, so he was just there trying to play baseball, so the grades didn't work out. So now he had to leave his senior year and to go play independent ball. So you have to know like what you really want. It's not the correct answer for either or. Like for me, it was great that I went to college because I'd probably be unemployed, working, groceries or something. But the fact that I got to use baseball to go play college allows me to today, have multiple jobs in baseball. Let me be from the club I was attending to actually work in the front office. That's all because of school. Because if not, I'd be a bad boy. I'd be a grown bad boy, which would be really weird. But now I get, with my education, I get to work, for a great company and I have a future. So I'm all about education first. But if you're a pretty good baseball player, you should just sign and quit playing pro ball.
Just wanted to ask you what you found most challenging about broadcasting the game.
Baseball? I think broadcasting baseball is easy and awesome. No, I think for me the biggest challenge was not being too big of a fan. Like the South Side, my hero, who I love to death, Hawk Harrelson. I love Hawk. One of my favorites, but the last couple of years is like, he's become way too big of a fan. And I think that gives the fan a false hope because you're listening to the voice of the team. So when a guy comes up to hit and you say, this is going to be the next Derek Jeter, people are like, yeah, this is going to be the next Derek Jeter. If he's not, you have false expectations. That and not critiquing too much. Number one, my father, I don't want to rip him too much on the air, and other players. Because obviously, like the situation that happened in the North Side with Steve Stone, you're very close to the players. And there's a fine line of how much you should rip it to them or not, because a player can have an issue with you. So those are the two. And I was in a weird situation because I went from being friends to the broadcast. So I was trying to keep it even keel. That's why I think the perfect job always is to work for someone like ESPN, and you get to broadcast everyone. Because you can rip or praise any team you want. I think working for one team and one team only, you have your limitations. So you have to always be even keeled. That was my biggest challenge on the part. And then the funny part of that story is, I thought my dad shouldn't have played Adam week 3 of the season. And he kept playing him. And it was so hard not to, rip him. And he kept playing him and putting him to pinch hit. That was a very real frustrating as a broadcaster.
As a son, did you mention that to him?
Yeah, I did. My dad has a rule. Everyone thinks my father's a huge baseball fan. He's not. He loves the history of it. He has a passion for it. But being a fan, he's not a fan of baseball. He's a fan of bullfighting, politics, a bunch of other weird stuff. But he's not a fan of sports. He won't go home and put on ESPN. My brother and I, all of us, we're sports junkies, especially baseball junkies. So my dad had a rule, we get home, when we were growing up, no baseball talk. And we always ask questions. As a manager, it got worse, because you're the boss. So we would ask him, why are you playing Adam? And he said, because of this, and why are you playing this person, and what's happening? So, yeah, we always have our opinions, and we always, set our part. And he would say that. He would say, that's why you effing are not a manager. Where you watch the games, and I would say, the broadcast booth, he goes, yeah, the farther you get away from the dugout, the smarter you get. And it's true. I managed my first men's baseball league team, and oh my God, I was so tight and anxious. I was scared because the competition gets, you get the X's and O's right, that's okay to move, but when it's your turn to pull the trigger, it gets more challenging. I think that's the hard part about managing.
Question on one of the teams you're on, there was a guy that was known to put his foot in his mouth and have a temper, and I'm just curious, his interaction with the team, what was John Rocker like?
John Rocker was awesome because I love honesty. I think John was one of the most real people in the world. John Rocker used to call my dad old every single day he saw him. John Rocker used to hate Randall Simon to the point that Randall would sit down at the table and John would get up because he did not like Randall. A lot of Hispanics didn't like Randall. He was a Neanderthal. You know, he didn't have good manners and he was crazy. He was loud and John didn't like that. So when that whole thing happened, the Atlanta Braves, you know, they came after him real big. And in a meeting, they thought Ozzie would rip him from the Hispanic side and other players. And he said, we all thought before what John has said. That's what my father's words were, which is true. You know, in baseball, racism only works one way. That's one issue that players always have. It's always the white player's fault. But it's not, they don't see it that you're not making it a point to get to know the white player. When you're playing Hispanic music, playing merengue and bachata at 9 o'clock in the morning, you know, or on a trip, that would annoy anybody. It annoys me, and that's the music I so when someone would tell them, like, hey, turn that music off, it's not about what race it is. It's 9 in the morning, you're playing that stuff loud. So a lot of players take that into consideration, like they're very sensitive, and John was just very open about it. And there's a lot of players on that team that are more racist than John. But they would never say it. But John, I think that's number one. I think the best pitching performance I've ever seen in a playoff from a closer. Because I remember being on the team bus and everyone was scared because they had like the FBI. And they said, "Don't worry, I'm taking the train." I was like, "This guy won't do it." He took the train, and the Mets fans were horrendous fans, by the way. They're crazy. They had batteries, and they were throwing at him during the bullpen when he was in the bullpen. And it was a double switch. Actually, it's double switch. My father went to short, and John came to pitch, and he was lights out. It was Sandy Koufax. The energy took him to the next level, and he pitched a great series. And after that, obviously, he had other issues. And and one of those things, like John was a guy that moment he rise, but he wasn't like a guy like Don Eckerson, like a longevity guy. He had the bullets that he had. He used them, but I think I loved him because he was honest.
Do you think that they do enough to acclimate Spanish-speaking players to learn English and learn to live in the U.S.?
I think they do. This is my only issue with it. Actually, my father got in trouble for this issue. I think they do in the minor leagues. I think the Hispanic players don't really care. They're like, I came here to play baseball, not learn. But I think once you're in the big leagues, and there's a player that you have, I think so he doesn't get in trouble, and he doesn't sound ignorant, and they're not dumb, they just can't speak English. I think they should have a team translator and at least offer to him to be there. Maybe you're not going to have him on the bench, but have somebody when they come interview, because a lot of the fans, unless you get someone like Ozzie Guillen that did horrible interviews in the 80s and no one knew what he was saying. I've seen the videos. So a lot of guys are shy. But as a fan, I think I would like to see what someone would want to say. So the White Sox have done a really good job of having translators now after my position is they've had more, but I think it's BS that a guy that comes from Asia, which is one guy, gets like a translator, a massage guy, a guy that grabs his coffee, and there's 100 Hispanic guys, and they don't get anybody. This guy got like $150 million bonus. This guy got like whatever. And we had a guy in AA baseball, Korean, I think he was Korean. This guy walked with an entourage of like 8 people. This guy threw like 80. Was not a very good pitcher. And the White Sox were like, who is this guy? Like this guy had an entourage. That's his massage guy. That's his translator. That's how we got him over here. He had a bunch of Dominican kids that are better than him that can't communicate. So I think every team should do more to us. I think on that sense, some teams like they cater like to the Asian players. They cater more because they think they're worth more because of the money. I think Hispanic. I wish that all big league teams would have a translator just to. I would have loved to hear more interviews from Vladimir Guerrero, like make the player know that it's available to them via a translator.
All the money they spend on the academies, and my wife is from Puerto Rico, and my son got to spend a summer in Dominican 2 summers ago, and he's seen the players, and he said there was a 16-year-old kid that was throwing 80, 90.
Yeah, and again, that's how
5 of them, and there's people. My son noticed there was academy people around behind the fence because he was doing some work with some children down there, and he said there's like 6, 7, 8 people from the team of the academy, and then they come up here, and they gotta talk, you know, Gomez has to talk to Segura, they have to talk to each other, but yet Aoki has, like you said, an entourage with him, you know, yes.
And it happens, and I think that, again, I think for the players, I had lunch and dinner with Jose Contreras and Alex, and Alex's English has gotten way better, but Jose's hasn't. So Jose, you've been living out, you're not going back to Cuba, bro. 10 years ago, you don't even know how to order something already? Come on. Like, you have to acclimate. So a lot of players are like against it, but a lot of players take advantage of it. But I think that having someone, I think that is really cool. Like, if, as a fan, I would like to, if the player of the game is a Hispanic guy, I don't care if there's somebody saying what he's going to say. I want to see what his thoughts are. Usually, I think the thoughts are probably going to be really dumb, because most players answer really dumb questions. Like, but I still would like that.
Why would the teams not do that? I mean, it seems like the player would be better on the field.
Money, cost. Why won't teams have a Hispanic coach?
I think the manager should learn Spanish.
My dad tried learning Japanese. That wasn't a very good thing. It depends. It depends, though. Like, for example, I know that they're filming this, and Weiss is going to say, you know, here comes another game, and say it again. I said, as a fan, I would bring a Hispanic coach to that staff. Robin's white. The other guy, the bench coach, he's white. Everyone's white in that staff, meaning, okay, Harold's there, he's African American. They have so many Hispanic players. You need, like, I call coaches like babysitters. You know, like when your mom comes in and like your boss, he rips you. Like, you know, you're doing this wrong. That's a manager's job. Then here comes the babysitter. And he pets you. It's okay, you're still great. You're still good, but oh, he's so mean to you. That's how baseball works. So not having someone there and having all the White Sox best players are all Hispanic. They were a couple years ago. Now they're finally realizing it. The marketing department especially. The bobblehead girls, they're not too well with their non-players. They like guys, white guys better. But the best players on your team are Abreu, Alexei, Avisail Garcia. Your top 3 hitters.
Yeah.
And they're going to probably be for a while. Hopefully, that's the plan. So having a guy there that's their guy, at least being able to communicate, I think as a Hispanic, you feel more comfortable. So I think every team, you should have a little bit of everything to be able to coach in your staff. I think that's a good team.
When we watch a pitching coach, maybe a Japanese pitching coach goes out there, white guy, you know, how does he communicate with those pitchers?
I think Don Cooper is one of the best at doing that. He had, you know, Asian pitcher. He had a Hispanic guy. Hispanic is actually pretty good. You just learn how to talk. Everyone talks baseball terms. Most of the time when a pitching coach goes out there, they're not really saying anything to them. He's got to give a guy a breather and have him believe in himself. So I think the biggest challenge is for the catcher. You know, for someone like AJ, like, you know, you have to really try to communicate, because pitchers are their mind, and even in your own language, is being able to have that guy trust you. But yeah, I think managing a coach, I think it's a almost. We had Juan Uribe. Shingo Takatsu was on the mound. 9th inning, and Juan Uribe called timeout. And it was Juan Uribe, Shingo, and AJ, and Uribe was talking. Comes back and like, Uribe, what were you saying, sir? You don't speak Japanese and you don't speak English. I don't know, but I just thought it was good to go up there. But if you're going to be wow, great non-timeout going up there and doing that. That shows leadership. So I think that's important from any position. The other one is on that with my father. My father was a Tom Seaver. He was playing shortstop on Tom Seaver's 300 win in New York. And again, my dad, first year rookie. I said, this video shows who you are. He's like, what do you mean? I said, to have the balls, sorry my language, to go up to Tom Seaver, who's a Hall of Famer, in his 300 win, an out away from him winning it, you coming up there, a first-year Venezuelan who speaks no English, and who's crazy, going up there and telling him it's okay. If I was Tom Seaver, I would have looked over and been like, what is your problem? Like, get out of here. But then the answer was, that's what leaders do. And him and Tom are good friends to this day. But that shows you that it wasn't, he didn't become a leader like later on. Like at 19 years old, 20 years old, however old he was, he went up to Tom Seaver and he wasn't scared of doing that. And I think that's very important to see when you're scouting. I wish I would see more of that in the Cub shortstop, certainly.
people are getting caught up, the generation coming up are getting caught up too much in this travel ball where it's costing parents an arm and a leg to do all this stuff. And I've been told that from former Major League Ball players, they're better off to put the money in the bank and give it for kids when they're done in high school.
Money in the bank for the future. Most likely your kid's not going to be a baseball player. Travel ball is expensive. I just think that if you're a parent and you love doing it, God bless you, but not every parent can do it. I just feel bad when kids think that if they don't play travel ball, they can't make it.
Right.
That has nothing to do with it. You know, we had a guy, Sweeney, with the White Sox. He played like 17 games in high school. He lived in some small town. This guy was a stud. Scouts are everywhere. That's the only great thing about baseball today. Back in the day, there was one scout for 300 players. Now there's 300 scouts for one player. So they're gonna find you. So if you play Little League, which I think that's why Little League World Series is one of my favorite things. It's one of those old things that has kept the game pure. Now Cal Ripken's got a World Series, and that's great. Everyone's got their own tournament, but still having that one and playing with like the original rules, that's awesome. I see so much pressure, and especially in South America. Even when I was growing up, the only reason I got into basketball and soccer more was because in Venezuela I didn't play. I was a utility guy at age 9. At age 9, I'm a utility guy, right? Yeah, my dad said, you're done playing here. And out of that team, there's 2 big leaguers, Navarro Jr. and Mijares. And Mijares wouldn't make the team because he was fat and a lefty, so all he would do was pitch. So, me coming here, being able to play Little League and doing all that, because in South America, that's something that's, again, that you don't enjoy the game. So you're like 10 years old and you're like a backup player. Like, who wants to do that? Like, who wants to, and I think baseball teaches you a lot more in life than it does just about playing baseball. I think that's what sports are meant to do, to teach you, like, winning, losing, frustrations. I don't like this kid. My dad's annoying. That's what it teaches you, I think, in life.
I was going to say, the kid I coached when he was 13, 14, Kevin James, who went to Spain the area here. He was a good kid, but he played in the high school team, but for like 13, 14-year-olds,